Well, it's time again for Artist Review. It's the end of the month of January. We're in the brand new year of 2011. As you all know, I'm your host, Bob Bockelman, here with a couple of shows on NOA TV. This one seems to maintain its popularity. I know, certainly with me, and I'm the biggest fan of it. And we're so pleased to, as you know, try and bring you at the end of the month. The last Wednesday of each month, we bring you a new artist, and he or she displays their wares, and we're always looking. We send out invites to the different galleries to send us people. But if you know of any artists that want to be on the show, just email me. The email address, of course, is always shown in the credit at the end of the show. And we're happy to bring them on. They do have to have 14 pieces because that makes a whole hour show. And it doesn't have to be, even though the majority are painters, we've had sculptors, we've had textile folks. So people, it's just not performing arts. That's the only ones we don't accommodate at the present time. Okay, enough about that. But I figured we haven't discussed the nature of the show in so long. Maybe for those first-time viewers, if there are any, they would get to know the gist of it. We're real pleased today again to have a new young artist, and let's go ahead and introduce him and find out more about him. His name is Aaron Reichert. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Our big question to all my guests is, first, we're very selfish down here. We're proud of our natives. Are you by any chance a native?
I'm afraid I'm not a native, Bob. I'm actually from a very small rural town in Michigan.
Michigan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What, can you tell us the name of it?
It's called Heartland.
Heartland?
Mm-hmm.
And where, is it close to Detroit? Or that's the only one in the city I know.
The closest town would be Flint.
Flint, Michigan. That's right. Oh, my goodness. Now, how long have you been away from Heartland?
Oh, I've been back to Heartland in so long. I've only been in New Orleans maybe about three years, just over.
Okay. Where have you been in between? What other places? Just give us a little
Well, I was
journey.
an actor initially, and I acted for about 8 years in Chicago. And then
that's
after
a great
that,
town for acting.
Oh, yeah. I actually haven't found another place that has offered such a wonderful diversity of theater in this countries anyway.
Great. Well, we have, we're very small compared to Chicago, but we do have, and before Katrina, we had a few more outlets. We even had my favorite growing up was on Madison Street in the corner, was Theater in the Round, and it never came back. But again, it's 2 bits compared to the big Chicago productions. But
well, the Bywater does some really neat stuff. I've actually
yes, they
enjoyed
do.
A lot
They
of what
really
do.
have become our second artist community next to the Quarter. Okay, so when did you actually come to New Orleans?
Well, it would have been about 2 years after the storm.
Okay. And what brought you here?
Lady.
It's always either
There's a woman, but
it's either love story or work, and that's usually, or people who come down and get caught up in one of our fantastic festivals and don't go home.
Yeah, sure. No, I figure
you don't
it's
know
as good
how
as
many
anything.
times that's occurred. I mean, in my life, I've known so many who just, get totally caught up, and it takes a while for them to realize that they lived somewhere else.
Well, shoot, I wasn't really prepared when I came here. I say, yeah, a lady brought me here, but honestly, when I came just to visit, it was pretty overwhelming. I hadn't been here before, and immediately, I just decided this is where I want to live.
Now, was she from here?
No, she was not.
Oh, okay. Well, great. So, and is she here now, or is
she
moved on?
She actually, I think, is in L.A. at this point.
Oh, okay. Went back to the big towns.
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, so are you enjoying New Orleans so far?
Yeah, I like it very much. I do.
Well, how did you, since you were an actor, of course you're already in the arts, but that doesn't mean, you have the gift or the interest in changing. And for some people, that's very, very difficult to be able to change careers and go into a whole different direction. So how long, you must have had interest in art, at least before, some training, something before you went into the acting, huh? Yeah,
I've always been active in painting. From way back when,
Okay.
and I got into the theater just because of my love of language and literature and stories and things like this, and I enjoyed it very much for the time that I was in it, but I realized that I function much more to my liking solo rather than collaborative.
Then collaborative. Well, yeah. Well, then definitely, because there's not too many one-man shows, even though they're great usually. So I think you've made the right choice there if you're going to be a solo artist to do it in something like this. And we're super pleased when we first saw his pieces. One of our earlier artists who recommended him to us gave us his website, which we're going to talk about just in a minute. And so I went to it, and I was just floored by it. He works in a standard medium. It's not like all over the place, so you're going to see that once we discuss it. But his pieces are just really very, very impressive, I think you're going to see. Oh. So tell us a little bit about your medium and how you got interested in, I'm going to say it's portraiture, but I mean, I don't know if that's the proper term for it.
No, it is. It's definitely portraiture. I mean, I don't make much more of it than I think what it is. I started off, you asked sort of like where it came from.
Right.
I was initially really drawn to these illustrations I used to see when I was a real little kid by this artist named Stephen Gamble, who does the scary stories to tell in the dark, those
really?
Children's books.
Okay.
And they're very eerie and very disturbing images, but I loved his use of just sort of like vagueness and details that kind of come out of a fog. And I was fascinated by this and thought, how does he do this? I got to figure out how he does this. So I tried to do it myself. And I never really figured it out, and eventually it became its own thing, and that actually was much more satisfying, I think, than actually copying what he does. So
sure.
That was sort of the jumping off point was his work.
Okay, now you're working in acrylics, even though you're also basically working in black and white, at least certainly for all of the pieces today. I don't know if that's... Have you ever tried color, or is it just not as dramatic?
That's funny. Every single
I hate to ask that, because
every single person asks that, and
we're all boasting
valid.
about how impressive your work is today.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's just be interesting to see how you. I mean, don't mess with a good thing. I guess that old adage applies. But did you ever experiment one day and just say, "What the heck? Let me put a piece of blue in here"?
No, I did a ton of work initially in drawing, and that's mainly what I did. I never was a painter until a couple years ago. I started painting. I always did drawing, and in color. With drawing with color is a completely different process than painting with color. At least in my experience of what it is. Okay. And I've just always liked black and white, though, for portraiture specifically, because it doesn't give you every darn thing. And I frankly just think that everybody looks so darn cool in black and white.
I think I hate to use the word exaggeration, but the depth of it is exactly right. And it's always been to me, and photographers are really hard for us to get on this show. We only get about one a year if we're lucky. And
sure.
And I love photography. And I've always appreciated black and white, even though color is beautiful. Mm-hmm. If I had my druthers, it's always, I think to paint the photo in black and white.
Sure.
And so I totally agree with you. In portraits, and maybe because so many of them in the old days, they didn't have the colors that paintings and pictures were, that the dynamics of it really comes out. It really gives you much more depth than worrying about the flesh tones or whether you got the right Victorian mole or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So you are working in acrylic, and hopefully most people know what that is today. I mean, it's like today's oil. It gives you a lot more breath. It gives you it's less. An oil really, to me, never dries. It's a painting that just keeps oozing, whereas acrylic is a much more modern technique. Now, you're doing all of yours, it seems like, on canvas, which we love. And my favorite thing is the majority that you brought today are what I call monumental, huge size. In fact, the front room, we've had to space it out, which we do sometimes, and so we put the large pieces in the front studio, which we'll be going to in a little bit, and the smaller ones we've kept back here. So I was in my delight seeing just the sheer size of these portraits, and that's what also adds another dimension. So it really takes, whether it's an ordinary individual or really one of the most best known characters that you'll see, I think it brings it just to a huge, just like a large statue or a large building, and just gives it a lot more formality, a lot more, impress.
Sure.
I've said too much. Anything else? Oh, I know we want to do for those two things. One, folks, if our director's been so efficient today, look at that. As you know, we have two phone lines. If you, anytime during this show, don't hesitate to give us a call on either one of those lines. You can speak to myself or to Aaron about any question about his work, and we're going to be telling you where you can see him and all that later on in the show. But the more immediate situation is for those after the show or who missed this show, if you want to see him any hour of the day, then you can catch him on the internet. You do have a web presence. Tell us about that.
Sure. It's just
I
my
know it's
name.
very difficult. It's a tough one.
It's just my name, www.RtistReichert.com.
And let's go ahead. It's up there on the screen. But why don't we go ahead and spell it out? Because, you know, today we have so many variations on spelling. So Aaron is A-A-R-O-N, and then Reichert is spelled R-E-I-C-H-E-R-T. That threw me for a loop, folks, for those. I was one to throw an A. And that's one word. Remember, no underscore, no hyphens, AaronReichert.com. So if you can remember the spelling of his name, you go right to the website. And I imagine on then you have at least some of your work? Or
I have a number of them. I mean, it's not everything, but there's probably 20 or 25 pieces.
So there'll be
on
even
there.
more than what we have today.
Sure.
So there'll be some overlap, but you'll also see some, and you'll find out more. I'm sure there's some bio and other stuff on you back there.
I mean, pretty much everything you'd want to know about what I'm doing is right
so
there.
So don't hesitate to check that out at any time if you miss any of the replays of the show or you want to see additional work. And we'll tell you at the end of the show where you can see him in person and see the press to flesh and see these in the right on top, one-on-one, mano a mano. All right, let's start. We're ready to start with the first big piece. I think it's the largest piece, or one of the largest pieces we have today. And we get our camera set up. Why don't we said that this is going to be a let's talk about what it's a female subject.
Sure. This is a portrait of my friend Tiffany that I met while working on a job here in New Orleans. I do some work with a cable company that films musical events. And she was a friend of a fellow that I was working with, and she does a lot of modeling and this sort of thing. And she was born and raised in the lower Ninth Ward. And I just, from the moment I met her, I thought, wow, what a face.
Yes. Her, striking. I mean, her cheekbones, the angles are so phenomenal and just phenomenal. So really dynamic. Now, folks, you can see they're still drawing back and really haven't even captured the entire size. Why don't you give them an idea for dimensions on this? It's a white canvas background. And what size are we talking about?
This one stands 5 feet tall on the vertical, and then it's just under 4 feet wide. It's like 40 inches wide, I believe. Oh, no, this one is 4 feet wide.
4 feet wide.
Yeah, so it's 5 feet by 4 feet.
In today's world, and especially in a lot of the modern homes or today's collecting, I think, has moved to predominantly has been a trend toward oversized pieces, and especially in something like this. And I have just the opposite. My home is all deep Mardi Gras colors, so it would never. I would like it, but I know everybody would. But just think how dramatic this would be in a typical bland or white-walled commercial home that they have or building today. This piece, and again, it's today's wallpaper. That's what I call it, today's wallpaper, because one piece like this will take up such a magnificent size of most rooms that you really don't want anything else other than maybe some curtains or something in the window to actually pull away from the from really the dynamic impression you're getting. So really big piece, white canvas, and then black and grays, all whatever in the acrylic. Just you're going to in for a treat. Anything else you want to tell us about this one before we move on to the next one?
I'm happy to move on to the next one if you want.
Okay. Now we're going to go to someone. We went from making a known somebody out of a nobody, or not a nobody, but an unknown, to someone who is extremely well known, especially not only here in Louisiana, but across the southern region. Not with us at the present time, but let's see if we can. And we've had an interesting thing on guessing some of these portraitures this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me.
Sure.
And some of us have come up with different folks, and the artist has been kind enough to not take offense, and has told us which one he felt it was, but admitted our other conjectures. Okay, who do we have here, sir?
Yeah, but I sometimes joke that maybe I should wait to say who these people are until people decide who they are themselves.
You don't want to turn a potential buyer off.
Yeah, right. I mean, I had
exactly.
This is Robert E. Lee. This is a painting of Robert E. Lee. I felt like one of the things I've always enjoyed about the South is the history of this war. I mean, I could rattle on and on about the little that I know about the Civil War, but I think it's such a defining moment in our history and just what we became, and I'm endlessly drawn to images and from the war and the portraiture from the war, and Robert E. Lee obviously is one of the great icons of the Civil War.
Yes,
good or bad. I don't really care. I just think he's such an interesting person.
And what I like about it too, well, one of the sides we didn't mention, but it's almost identical to the first side. Is that right? To the first painting we looked at.
Yeah, it's a little thinner. This
little
one is
thinner, but 5 feet high. So again,
yeah.
you can see it side by side next to. That's an interesting couple. It's got a lot of symbolism with regard to the Civil War as well.
Yeah.
That's great. But the most important part I liked about Lee was the portraying him as a statesman, not necessarily in the Confederate outfit whereas Grant you very rarely see in other than the Union outfit. It's always in a militaristic look. Whereas Lee was just as much at home being a diplomat and a statesman as he was on the battlefield with his soldiers. And I just really think this brings it really a step up by portraying him in this particular aspect instead of the full military uniform.
Sure.
Well, there for our historians or our anyone interested in just magnificent portrait, there's Robert E. Lee.
I guess I should mention I haven't told what these are actually called, the names I gave them.
Oh, do you? Well, I didn't know you had names.
I thought suddenly, wait a minute, maybe I should mention this before we get too far along.
Please.
But the first painting we looked at...
Tiffany was what we call Tiffany.
Yeah, I actually call this painting... I mean, sometimes I just call them based on who they are, but other times, you know, I think who they are is...
Transcend. Sure.
Yeah,
Go
they
ahead.
are who they are.
Tell us what the first
one I like to call New Orleans for just different reasons. But I think at least in our contemporary mind, there's a lot of focus on what has happened here in this city and the recovery that's happening. And I felt like in doing this painting that was very much in my mind, and her history, something about
tied right
presence,
in.
It worked, and there's just a lot of stormy sort of things happening within the confines of the portrait that I think are like sort of almost like literally stormy and applicable to New Orleans.
Other than using her real name, I think it's a great choice.
Sure. Now, and then the Robert E. Lee I call this one Pale Horse. Because
interesting.
He wrote A Pale Horse, but he was also a very terrifying figure in certain ways, almost like of biblical proportions, without doubt. Like it's certainly within the minds of the people that adored him, and also in the minds of people that knew him later. And I mean, in many, many different ways, he was a terrifying and sort of larger-than-life personality.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. I like both names.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, now the next one. We've had really just formal things. Now we're going to go way out there, and this will be very interesting because we're doing a reverse effect.
Sure.
Instead of having the white background on the canvas, we're going to solid black with the portrait in, of course, the whites and the grays and the blacks in front. And let's take a look and tell us who is this, because where do you see this one, folks?
Sure. This one is called.
You got a name for it?
This one's called Godot.
Godot.
This is a portrait of Samuel
Waiting
Beckett.
for Godot?
Yeah.
From Samuel Beckett?
Samuel Beckett. This is him right here. He wrote Waiting for Godot. And I always thought, you see all these wonderful photographs of Beckett, and I always thought, if Godot actually appeared in this play, it would be Samuel Beckett, because he's such a... Just his face is unbelievably interesting.
You're spot on with that. You really are. Of course, some people thought he was a little older, but the rocker, I've forgotten his name. He's doing all the melodies. When they get too old, they do all the old songs. I don't know.
Oh, shoot. Who said that? I don't remember.
I won't tell you. Well, just like you thought, the one previous was Grant, not Lee. I knew it was Lee. I did know that one. But this one, I fell along because I had no idea who the persona was.
Sure.
But what is just so fabulous is the significance of the hair, the stylized hair, along with the just huge crevasses in his face. It it is so poignant. I mean, it's so dynamic. No matter who it is, it could be, like I say, this could be another person you found on the streets. It's just one of the most beautiful and rich-looking faces, and I think you just done magnificent with it, really.
Well, it's interesting. You know, I sometimes don't want to blatantly point out who people are in these portraits, and sometimes I kind of like it that people don't know who they are, because I don't want the thing to just be about, it's you know, it's a painting of Bill Murray.
Oh, that's great. I know, you like having a bust of Shakespeare in your house. Like, I got a picture of it.
But at the same time, I like it that it's a way for people that aren't, you know, huge art folks to appreciate and say, oh, I love this guy. He's great, and this is a neat painting of him. Like,
that's right. Yeah. You can appreciate the painting for itself and not necessarily who's behind it. Not you, but I mean who's behind the actual face. And as we said before, we had the guessing game. We're going to come up to one later on where even the artist admitted he could go almost either way. So anyway, okay, well that's great. That one's called again. What we call it? That
one's called Godot.
Godot, and
that one is.
This is a horizontal painting, folks. I don't know if we're going to the perimeters. So
it's almost 5 feet, almost 5 feet wide and about just under 3 feet tall. So
okay, 3 by 5, or 5 by 3, right? 3 foot high and 5 foot long. So this would be great for another size wall, depending on what you have. And now these are like gallery wrap, right? I mean, just with the background. Is that correct?
What gallery wrap? You mean just the canvas
instead of framing? You know, a lot of things nowadays, the painting will continue to the sides.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Of course, here it's just background for the most part, so you don't have to worry about it. None of these would require framing. And I think framing would probably take away from any of the.
They work well either way.
But some people, you know, it's everyone's taste.
Yeah, it totally is. I never frame things because I figure it's up to, you know, the folks who buy them, how it works in their house.
Sure, that adds another dimension that could turn off, you know, one who's appreciating the painting by maybe not liking the frame. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So we're really making our rounds through the Hall of Monuments here. We've got...
actually, you mentioned that. I did a show about a month ago. Well, what am I saying? About a year ago. Okay, it was a long time.
Long month.
Long time ago. No, so, and the name of the show was An American Consciousness. It was through Terrence Sanders, who gave me my first show in town.
Great. Yeah,
he's been very good to me. And that show was actually all about, I mean, all of these paintings that we're going to see are pretty much about American icons. Some of them are only iconic to me, let's say, because they're friends of mine or whatever. But I'm very fascinated with the forces at work within just people that are artists in our time right now, you know, and in all walks. I mean, some of them are politicians, I suppose, but they all are so relevant to this American consciousness that's happening right, you know, at this moment. Sure. So at any rate,
let's not digress too much because we'll lose the interest. People want to see the paintings.
Yeah, I understand.
Let's go ahead and move on to our next. Now, oh wow, look at this! Talk about drama. This one's really a great one. Now, why don't we go ahead and tell? Don't forget, folks, we got that phone numbers up there. If you want to call in and speak to Aaron or myself, don't hesitate during the hour. Okay, now this is. Well, we've done one politician, if you want to call it per se. Now we do one of the most illustrious politicians, I think, in our nation's history.
Yeah, this is a portrait of Lincoln that I call From Granite. It's actually based on a sculpture.
Statue?
It's based on a sculpture, that I saw at the Met Museum when I was out there.
Wow.
About, 4 months ago. And I photographed this bust from all kinds of different angles, and it was lit in this wonderful way, just from, probably 15 different sources, and it created the most wonderful shadows. And so this painting is actually done from, someone else's sculpted work.
Yeah, but a sculptor, no matter how beautiful a sculpture is, it always looks, I don't want to say stilted or frozen, but it never has the real persona of a human per se. But this, you bring life to the sculpture. That's what I like about this, because I would never know that this is from either a photograph or a sculpture. It is so phenomenal because it really looks so realistic, so lifelike. And so what are we talking about again? White background. We're talking about, what about size on this one?
This one is, how big is this one? This is, I think, 3 feet by 4. Yeah,
3 by 4
feet tall.
Similar to the Godot one.
Yeah, it's a little. It's not quite as long, but
well, that's okay. Just approximate dimensions. But again, we're going horizontally, so it's 4 feet tall by 3 feet wide, approximately.
Sure.
Okay. Now, do we call this Lincoln, or do you call? No, you say you call it.
This one's called From Granite. It's from a granite bust that I saw of them, and Lincoln. I've probably done
some
7 or 8.
Yeah, I've seen on the website several variations, which is great because none of them at all are alike. I mean, they all have their own uniqueness, not only because of the angle or whatever, but they really do different stages like of his career.
Yeah, and it's lovely because people really respond to Lincoln. People, I mean, nobody. I mean, there are folks, I suppose, that don't, but I mean, for the most part, people really, have.
He's probably one of the most dramatic portraiteurs.
Yeah, and he's another unbelievable face. Just like all the portraits you see of Lincoln, all the old photographs, they're just all so moving.
Very stylized, very moving. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to the adjacent one. What do we have next? I think we've got one coming up.
I love this one. This is
well, that's me. And look,
hey, look at that.
Wow. Okay, let's see if we can. I guess we need. We're drawing back out again now. For a while there, this looks like the same eyes we saw. Oh no! Now here, I recognize those glasses. And again, we had someone who did not recognize this, but gave another name here. Well, the problem here is that this is a youth-oriented facility, and a lot of these young folk don't. Some of these are people they're not even familiar with. They're worried about contemporary in the future, not the past.
Sure.
So. I mean, dare we need to tell the audience who this is? It's Harry the Bird Collector, your friend, right?
I call this painting Elvis with Parrot. I did this one.
Elvis with Parrot, that's a great
This is
one.
based on, if you do a Google search and look up Elvis mugshot or whatever, okay, this is sometime when he was hauled off to jail, totally wasted and totally stoned on whatever the heck he was on, and dressed just like this, which made me laugh so hard because I think Elvis is he's like comic gold.
Oh, yeah. He's a caricature. He's definitely a caricature himself.
Yeah, sure. So this is just, I've always enjoyed Elvis. I used to see an Elvis impersonator in Chicago with a friend of mine, regularly, and it was just a hoot, and he's one of my favorites, so I needed to do a painting of him.
We had luncheon over the weekend, and this lady, good friend of mine from way back, since my first job, has always been an Elvis aficionado. I mean, so much so that she traveled the world, and there's pictures of her, and I want to give her name out, on magazine covers and all kinds of. She has her own following, so she has this shrine in her home to Elvis. And I've given her some painting. She would just go bonkers over this, and maybe she wouldn't like it because you put the parrot in. It might be
it's not.
And I like it. To me, it's tongue in cheek.
Oh,
it
totally.
really, adds that extra dimension. It brings it much more with today's perspective on it. Instead of that idol worship of the my day group, and
well, it may not be apparent too quickly, but pretty much with everything I do, I try to throw in some sort of tongue-in-cheek element, some sort of comedy. I mean, some of them, okay, no, it's not there, but in certain ones, it's like even just the subject itself is like, you're doing a painting of that guy? Like, who would paint that guy? So it's sort of, sometimes that's kind of what's at play here. And obviously with this one, it's like painting Elvis, but painting him looking like a total, scumbag in a way, or just totally like almost.
I was just say she might take offense with this because of that, even though it's fantastic. I think it's just great. Now, size, this is again a vertical one, not as big as the first two. What do you think? It's
this one is this one is 5 feet by 4.
It is 5 feet tall.
Very large painting. Yes.
Okay, so it is a big one. So it's similar to the first three. So once again, I have to ask this girl to save her pennies, and maybe she can pick this one up for me because I know she's always.
Well, there'll be more Elvis too.
There's never going to be too much. Lockers full of stuff, but there's never too much. Sure. Anyway, too much is never enough. My favorite saying. All right, moving on. If I'm a big Elvis musical fan, again, folks, don't hesitate to give us a call. We're here for the rest of the hour, making our way through these great portraits of famous and not so famous folks with Aaron Reichert, a new young artist, been with us a couple of years. His website, www.aaronreichert.com, and you'll get to see him coming up real shortly in the flesh, and we'll tell you that at the end. Let's go ahead and move on to our next one from the front studio. I like the way we've been dramatically pulling away from the close, huh?
Sure, yeah.
And really, they're adding a whole, that's like the nostrils that ate the world, huh? Look at the side. It really gives a whole new look. Fantastic.
Sure. This is
okay. Now this is one where again we have a debate on who this character is.
Okay, that's right.
So go ahead and do you have a name other than the person's name?
I call this one "Wasted and Wounded."
Wasted and Wounded.
That's a lyric from one of his songs.
Okay. So we had someone identified as a country and western singer. But he was talking about married to a famous actress, and we found out that's he got divorced. I forgot her name, not Sandra Bullock. The other, the guy Neil. Anyway, and I said, well, no, that can't be him. But you said it is a country and western singer.
No. I was saying I should just say that's who it is because that's who everybody thinks it is. This is actually a painting of Tom Waits. Everybody thinks it's Lyle Lovett. In fact,
that's who it is, Lyle Lovett. See,
it's not Lyle Lovett.
Wasn't he married to a famous actress?
What's her name from Pretty Woman?
Not Sandra.
Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts.
Oh, yeah. It's a wealth of knowledge. In this
well, you would know. I would not know this, but I don't know.
So anyway, so they were swearing he was Lyle. They didn't know the name either, but they just said they recognized him.
I might change the name because everybody, as soon as they see it,
now Tom Waits, he's done singing.
Tom Waits is just wonderfully colorful. He sings and he's an actor and he does a lot of like circusy, just kind of. His music is unlike anything you're gonna ever hear. It's full of horns and strange, noises.
Well, that hair and that look is just phenomenal.
He's a huge sensational character. I've always liked him so much.
What I liked about this one, though, and I don't have the best of eyes, folks, so forgive me and don't take offense.
No.
But it looked like he had just come from like being in a shower or a rainstorm.
Okay, yeah.
The dripping, then it just, to me, it added a whole new look for it. Like,
Yeah, okay.
But anyway. But the hair is just, that's the killer. It really brings you back to reality.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, what's Tom's size about? Where are we still at?
He's another 5x4.
5x4. So again,
5 feet
great
by 4
size,
feet.
folks. In today's world, today's collector, couldn't get a better size for what I call today's wallpaper. Be great in any home, but certainly in something contemporary or with a wonderfully blank white wall. Huh?
Sure.
All right. I think we have maybe one more in the front studio before they come back to us. Let's see if is that right? Or is
I think it's 2 more up there.
2 more.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, we got to move along. We're halfway through the show. Let's see if we can go on. And back to us. We have to move these phenomenal instruments and take these pictures out, and so they'll be lining up. There we go. Where we're starting right there. Huh? The eyes have it, as they always say. Huh?
It's interesting to see them sort of drawn out
in that tunnel vision, huh?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's interesting with the process of these. Since we're looking at them so up close, like I spend so much time just like right up in there,
in that area,
up close, and all these little details. And I tell you, the hardest thing about all this is figuring out what needs to go, because
editing,
I'll be working on it, and then I'll step back and I'll be like, that's just a big damn mess. Like it just looks, totally confused. And so the process is figuring out like, okay, where can I get rid of all the noise, So anyway, just.
But it's great. So we're focusing. We're bringing the person in just like not necessarily where you start, but where you spent the most amount of time.
Yeah, right up.
Interesting. Very interesting. God. Okay, now what do we want to title this one? I'll tell you who we had some guesses who this was. So they thought everybody was a personality. See, when they saw a few, they just figured you only did well-known folk.
I just call this one Johnny Cash. That's who it is.
Johnny Cash.
It's very young Johnny Cash.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
back way back.
Some of them actually thought this was the old time, and I feel a little resemblance to one of the old stars like Frank Sinatra, but I'm not sure it's someone like it. But see, with the pompadour kind of hair and the stylized look. But Johnny Cash, huh?
Yeah, that's a very young Johnny Cash.
And what size do we have here?
This is, what is this one? I think it's 5 feet by 3.5.
Wow. So this is great.
Something like that.
Now, you see, again, you take him and, of course, he's known for his maybe wear just like almost like Roy Orbison, the black. You take him, to me, and costumed him in something that, to me, doesn't seem, what you envision him to be. Well, so that's why I think it took a little bit away from the typical
quick recognition of who,
quick idea of who it would be, exactly.
I like this image because it's something I think really exciting about capturing people when they were sort of small, before, maybe he wasn't at this point in his career, but what he became was so iconic, and I don't know, I just think there's something really wonderful about with the starting off, the burgeoning artists, you know.
Well, it's just like yourself, having you here instead of having Pablo Picasso, you know.
Sure.
We much rather have the emerging artists than the established.
Well, thank you so much.
No correlation between the two, but just the same idea.
Sure.
Okay, and is that a telephone wire in the back? What's that? I have bad eyes again.
What, on the painting?
On the left, on the left, there's something, or is that part of his outfit?
It's just he's wearing a vest, and that's his big old
See, that's
collar.
not bad. To me, it looks like a cross of a T. I was thinking bird on a wire or something like that. That's how bad my eyes are, okay? All right. Now, I'm told we have one more in the front studio, huh?
One more
before
painting.
we leave the Giants to rest. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and swing around and get the last one. Once again, folks, don't hesitate to call Aaron Reichert, www.aaronreichert.com. You can catch him on his website. And once again, we're starting from that dramatic eye. And whoa, this was really something, huh?
Sure.
Wow, look at this one. Let's see if we can get this. For more information, look at that. Wow. Can't beat it. I've never seen the FMI sign. This is great, folks. Okay, now look at it. Now we're drawing back. Let's see. I think this might be one of the others that was guessed at. Oh no, this is one we've seen already today, folks. As he mentioned, he's done several variations on the same theme, and that has been Lincoln. But look how different. If you can remember back to the one we saw earlier, look at this. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's like really two different individuals, totally two different individuals. I hope I'm not insulting you by that.
Not at all.
Not that it doesn't immediately look like Lincoln, but it just looks like two variations of the same person. So, tell us anything more. Do you call it something?
I call this one
Lincoln?
sort of set within. It's a very sad image of Lincoln. I didn't intend it to be that way. It just kind of became that way. And it's sort of funny because you say how different it is. It's actually taken from that same bust that I photographed.
Really?
It's the same. It's absolutely the same source material. But
see, to me, this looks like, I don't say a death mask, but similar to that. And this really looks like something that's life has passed away. You know, he's no longer among us. So whether it's done in sculpture, but it's just because it's so dramatic. But that is amazing to me that they both came from the same source.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's just a different angle and all, but it's just totally different and very dramatic with with that visage just being so, whether it's depressed or with the weight of the world as he had on him at that time. So it really shows so significantly here. Same size as the last one, about 5'3".
This is a square painting. It's 4 feet.
Oh, square.
4 feet square.
No reflection on anything. Square. 4 by 4.
Yep, 4 feet by 4 feet.
And once again, white canvas and black and white acrylics and gray.
Yep.
Excellent. Now, over what span of time does this represent in your young career?
That was about a year of work.
Wow.
I did about 20 paintings this year. This was real busy.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a busy year.
That's
this was
amazing.
actually.
I always like to ask that, and I know it kind of turns the artist off. Because they think and well, in fact, just like anything else, they think many of their pieces are never finished. Just like you said,
you can.
So, and I understand that, but it just goes to show folks, how. The difficult and the magnitude, and some things, some people can get in and do that in a short period of time. Some people can take a whole year to do almost a painting. It's so varying. There's nothing. It's all, I guess, within the individual.
Well, I have to set deadlines for myself because I know, it's just this downfall of people that create stuff. If you're not given a deadline, you can just linger and linger and linger, and at a certain point, it's done. And you just have to move on to the next one.
Well, the good thing about contemporary artists is they want to be recognized, not only financially recognized, but also in their lifetime. In the old days, the artists never really got that recognition. It was always their legacy that they were leaving the world.
Sure.
So that's the big difference. So you do have to, tote that bar, that bell, crank on down to get some representative pieces. Just like here, we do have some artists that can't come on because they're not able to get that many 14 pieces, which, sounds, I guess, like a lot or a little. But to them, they just don't think they can get that many assembled together different for the show. So when you realize that what we've seen there is a whole year, pretty, and we've been about 7 or 8 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, and look at that great panorama we're doing. You see, where else but on NOA TV can you get this type of camera work? I mean, magnificent. That's our our good friend Anthony Montgomery, our floor director, doing wonderful work. And our director today, we've got a new young director because our normal director, Larry Perkins, is, I guess he's moving up in the stream, and he's got visions of the future, and he's humbled us by actually physically being in the studio. Usually he's a little standoffish about that. You know, he likes to keep his distance from the guests. But he's graced us with his presence. So it's a whole new look today. Aaron doesn't realize this, but it's working out fine for him. Okay, now. We've got Anthony's coming back and brought his camera handy with him, and we're moving to the back of the studio. And like I say, these pieces took up so much space that we don't do our usual. We usually have the small pieces, able to pick them up and put them on our lap and show them to you like that. But even the small sizes are still prohibitive, and so we've had to line the walls with them. And I think, are we ready yet to start on the first one? Yes? Okay, excellent. Now here's the one that and again we're starting it. Now right there it looks like a Kennedy. It looks like, to me, if we had to guess it looks like Bobby Kennedy.
All right.
Okay, keep going. Now this is a political figure. Oh, I shouldn't have given that. So this is, Paul, go ahead, tell us who this is.
I was joking. This is George W. Bush.
George W. Jr. So that's his son. Fantastic. But do you know who I thought first glance? I gave it off wrong, but I did correct myself. I incorrectly identified as Paul Newman.
Well, the funny thing is they look similar.
And the artist has recognized that there's some similarity in their look.
I couldn't believe it. I was watching Cool Hand Luke, and I thought, holy smokes, he looks like George W. Bush. I can't believe it.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of those, but never put that two and two together until today.
I know.
So it took you to bring it out, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to mention with this painting, I mean,
go ahead, please.
It's so funny, like, people always talk about this painting, and they're like, why? Like I was joking before with people, why would you paint this, because everybody in the art scene, like, is so staunchly democratic, and, I mean, won't get into politics, but, I mean, here we are.
Conservative.
Anyway, so the reason I did this painting of Bush was because I think he's valid, whether you like him or not. He's, part of he's a big part of our American life.
Sure.
And it was actually a two-part project. I did a painting of Barack Obama, and I thought, well, if you're going to do a painting of Barack Obama, you got to do a painting of George W. Bush, because I think the two are so synonymous, with, anyway, I won't go on too much about that, but that painting is actually at Sophie B. Wright Charter School. I donated that one to them, and this one is still around, but anyway, that's just the story of that painting.
What I find so intriguing about it is the eyes, again.
Sure.
The looking up is really uplifting, and we don't always, even though he's got wonderful traits and faults, we never look at him as an uplifting type person.
Sure.
He's down to the earth, and to me, it just elevates his persona a lot. That almost looking up would actually be looking up from the angle. So to me, it gives him a whole new dynamic that I would never have attributed to George Bush. So I congratulate you on that, and. And this is a smaller piece, so let's getting down to smaller size. What do we talk about in size?
Oh, this one is, let's see, 24 by 48, 2 feet by 4.
2 by 4, 2 by 4. So there you go. It can't be that. Black background, again, real dynamic with that black background. Okay, we're gonna have to move along.
Oh, I'm in a book.
Yeah, let's go ahead to the second one here, and this is another great one. Let's see if we can move to the next one, huh? Are we going? Where are we going?
Yeah, this is Ambrose E. Burnside. I call this one the Brick. That was his nickname.
That is his
in the Civil War.
I knew that.
Yeah. And I did a few different Civil War people. As I said, I really like the Civil War, but there's just different people I've met that come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm related. I'm a great of whoever, Robert E. Lee and all these people." Right, and I got a buddy, sure enough, who's Jason Delo, who is back in Heartland, Michigan, and he is a descendant of this fella. And the funny thing is, he looks just like him. As soon as he told me he was related to him, I'm like, oh, holy smokes, you do just look like him.
Holy smokes.
Anyway,
this is
this is an old. This is one of that I did a couple years ago.
Well, what I like about it so much is because you don't see them that often, even though they were much more obviously popular then, is the mustache and the beard. I don't know if it's not a handlebar, because I don't know what they call that. There was a name for it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think
it's mutton chops is what they call it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe
really? So. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just one continuous structure that goes around the face. but gives it much more dynamic than just the ordinary beard.
Sure.
And so it was so dramatic back in those days that I'm sure it was a lot more popular. I don't think we've seen one on any contemporary individual, but it might be a new look for some of these new people trying to get noticed. But a great good one. All right, let's go ahead and move this. And now we're going away from politics and going back to the media. And this one you're going to recognize right away. Phenomenal actor. And what do we call this one?
What do we call it? I call this one Sailor Song.
Sailor Song.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you, when you look at his outfit, definitely looks very nautical. Not a sailor as we know, but just kind of the New Hampshire set and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And do we have to guess who this is? It's not the devil. Who is it?
It might be.
Might be for some people, yes, exactly.
A lot of people, actually, there's a lot of people that don't like this guy at all. I don't understand. I think he's
got
so
a
interesting.
huge black and white following.
Yeah, totally.
So it's perfect to do it in this dynamic because there's very few mangy-panty people about this particular character.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked him, but I guess I kind of go for sort of scummy.
Well, I have to admit that I liked him better, the scary Jack, the early Jack, compared to the new mellow Jack.
Okay.
I know he's still supposed to be great, but most of these contemporary comedies are all the same movie, so I hate to see him have to make a buck that way.
Yeah.
But
he's so interesting. Yeah, this
phenomenal
Jack
character.
Nicholson, obviously, we're talking about it, but I mean, he's somebody that I've in the old days I did drawings of him and all kinds of things. I always think he's one of the guys I come back to as just such an interesting human being that I've done a lot of work capturing in different phases of my life.
Well, it reminds me, like I say, not only of it's obviously Jack Nicholson, but it reminds me of something menacing. Like I said, the devil, or even in one of the Star Wars, there was a character, the Red Menace. I mean, they had that same type of look, that he just has naturally, So really, really very well done. So this would be great as, like I say, if you want to have brag that you have a well-known star, like some celebrity conscious people, but again, what a variety this would bring to any kind of rum, because it's fun, but at the same time it's got a dark sense to it. It really does, really great, which is capturing him again perfectly. Okay, now we're going to flip to the other side, our side of the room. Don't forget, you give us a call if you'd like to talk to Aaron, and you can get him on his website, and we get time, we're going to show you where he's going to be soon. We'd love to hear from you, folks. Don't be afraid. It's phone's not going to hurt you. It's always good to get you. Tell your friends you've been on TV. Even if it's only your voice, a voiceover. Okay, now this one.
Okay, this painting I call The Wrestler.
And I mean, coming right off of Jack, as I was talking about that menacing, it certainly personifies that theatrical menacing things that the wrestlers do. Now, is this a particular one?
Yeah,
I'm not a big wrestling fan, so I don't know
This is The Undertaker. He's been around for ages and ages.
Oh, my goodness.
And actually, back in my college days, I did a whole series of oil pastel paintings of professional wrestlers, which was a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so this is kind of a throwback to those.
That rung true to a lot of folks, because, of course, that does have a tremendous, following, that particular thing. So, I'm sorry I don't recognize it, but I just like to... And I know in that whole thing...
It's good you don't recognize it. It's good that you don't. I mean, it's very silly. I like it because it's just so darn funny, these big
It is
beefy
common,
guys.
and I've seen it because it's so staged, and then people have learned early on it was staged. Mm-hmm. But what's good about it, it's always good and evil. It's always,
Yeah.
But the best part is like a soap opera is that, who's good today might be bad tomorrow. So that's the really unique thing I think about it, is that the same person changes his persona to be the opposite, the bad guy versus... So that's really great. So here you couldn't get a better look from a bad guy, and bad guys are just as popular as the good guys in that particular sport, or whatever you call that media. Okay, what size we're talking about? Again, a smaller one?
Oh, this one's 30 inches by 40 inches.
3 by 4, not 3 by 4, but 30 by, okay.
Yeah, slightly
2.5
smaller.
by 3.5. Okay.
Yep.
Neat. So that would be great for those wrestling enthusiasts. But even if you're not, like I said, it's just if you don't mind that sinister type look, you want that kind of look, it'd be great for a home or an office. Office on maybe not, because you might want to, some of your clients might not take too well to it, but I think certainly at home would be great. Yeah. Okay, we've got one more, which hopefully I can swing around my obese body and capture on the floor. I don't know what that was, but
It's actually got 2 more over there.
oh, we got 2 more. Oh, sorry, thank you. You see, again, I can't see over my right
I'll
shoulder.
cover you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we still got. We got 10 minutes, folks, so we should be able to finish up.
Sure.
Now we're going back to me, almost to the delicate touch of the first Tiffany at a New Orleans painting, bringing, and I assume I hope this is a female.
Yeah, it sure is.
Well, it might not
Bravo,
be.
good. I'm glad you didn't think of it.
I think it has some male characteristics.
No,
but
definitely, yeah.
But it has that, to me, automatically, the softness is brought into it. And so, however you captured that, because in the first lady, her cheeks were very angulated, which would also be masculine. But here you don't have any of that, and so you do have more of a feminine type facial image, but at the same time, with the hair and stuff like that, it very well could be a contemporary, or even not even contemporary male, but even an older version. So, and we call this what?
This painting's called Revelator. It's a song.
Revelator. Now that's way above me.
Revelator. It's a song by the woman in the painting named Gillian Welch, who's a folk singer, and she was on the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack. That's that soundtrack.
That's a great movie. Yeah, and I loved all that music for it, but I would have never.
She sings a lot of darker
film,
kind of stuff.
She just did
she does a lot of the singing on there. But she's got a wonderful face, and actually finding female subjects that work with what I'm doing with the really kind of stark style is a little tricky because I can't often. I'm not really interested in representing them to look like classically beautiful and flawless, and so it takes a certain kind of personality to work. Because sometimes I feel bad, like I do paintings of women, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
Look like a man. Like so I said, almost this has a masculine look. They get
but
all
with her, it works because she's got that sort of really disturbing sort of element in her music. I mean, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of murder and themes of her songs. So it works for her. And she's wonderful. I love what she does.
So you don't go to Mona Lisa route at all?
No, I don't.
And size again?
This one is
similar to this?
Yeah, I think this one's 30 by 40 again, or 30 by 48. So
a little bit bigger, but great.
Yeah.
For then, what's her name again?
Gillian Welch.
Welch.
She's
but you call it
singer. I call it Revelator.
Revelator. Excuse me. Okay.
Yeah.
Might have to go back and listen to that soundtrack or watch that movie. I don't know if I have a soundtrack, but I certainly watch the movie and catch the song. Okay. Now, do we have one more? If they can get it all the way around.
Sure.
Really a panorama. They got to go around this huge crevasse here, and here we go. Now this, wow. Well, I'm gonna get you first impressions. I don't remember seeing this one. It looks like I'd say a cross between Tony Curtis, looks like a female, and one of the other famous actresses of old. I can't think. Is this a male or female?
This is a woman.
A woman. So
this is
Tony Curtis had that almost feminine type face. I don't know.
Tony Curtis is hilarious. Yeah.
But I'm just talking about his features. More beautiful than handsome. If you want to understand what I'm saying. But this is great. So what do we call this?
This one is simply a portrait of my friend Meredith. I call it just Meredith. She's a friend that I've had for many years in Chicago. And she and her boyfriend have been dear friends to me, and I was visiting town and took a bunch of pictures of them, in their apartment.
What do you see her mood in this particular, what do you think?
Well, she's an interesting person, and so admittedly I don't know her terribly well.
Okay.
And so I kind of enjoyed that aspect of our relationship, that there's a lot of mystery in spite of, just sort of naturally liking her a lot. So I tried to bring that into what I was doing here, and I don't know. So a lot of it is
She's
just
got a great
sort of
look.
thinking.
I mean, really great look. But
I wouldn't say exactly what the mood is or what exactly is going on with her, but I responded to it, and I liked it very much.
Did great. What's interesting, trying to stay out of your picture. What's interesting is that of the paintings you brought today, the majority are not of people that you know persona, only 2. So would you say historically that has been your trend, the majority doing whether it's from another source or whatever, but I mean, not someone that you personally know.
Well, the thing is, I like to do things for people I know. It's much more, there's a lot more emotion behind it, and ultimately I think the painting works really well because I care so much, because I care about these people. But I like the icons because it draws in people that don't normally like stop and look at art. They're like, okay, I love Johnny Cash. This is a cool painting of Johnny Cash.
Right.
Oh, I'll look at it. That's kind of why I do the icons.
Okay.
Short answer on that.
Got it. Well, this is great. I mean, she looks like, again, somebody from the Hamptons or something like that. You know, just
but,
contemplative,
yeah.
but, you know, a very, very interesting thought process. I mean, to be, if you would say she was having a birthday, I wouldn't get the feeling. I think. Okay, now, although you've seen, I'm going to block that for you folks. See, I'm all in black too. Look at that! Wow.
Hey, all right.
Gee, this is really dramatic. This show. Anyway. What we have now is, and we've saved the best for last, but at the same time, if you've caught any group shot of us, you've been watching it all day. But we thought of all the ones we have that we wanted to feature in the center as the most striking, and I hate to put it that way, but certainly most dramatic, is again another well-known caricature and actor, and he's there right between us. And look at that right there. We stop right there for a second. Look at that. And I don't go any further. Oh my goodness, that is! It almost looks ghoulish. I mean, it's
sure.
And we'll keep moving back, and we'll see that it probably is. Okay. But why don't you tell us who this is? And for those if there's anyone who doesn't know it, I'm surprised.
This is Heath Ledger from the new Batman movie. This is very topical
he the Joker?
at the time. This is Joker. Yeah. I did this painting a couple years ago, right around when the movie came out, and I'll admit I just thought it was super cool, so I wanted to do a painting of him, and that's the extent of it. I mean, also though, I kind of wanted to find something of him that wasn't totally over the top, insane, and so I tried to create an image that was a little more disturbing in a more cool, like collected, direct kind of way, and that's what I arrived at. Was
I
this
think
image.
you're spot on, because that's exactly right. I mean, so many people have, of course, the magnificent color photographs and all, and that's true, really great of it. But you take it in a new direction. You still have that uneasiness, but at the same time, it's in a very cool way. Real quickly, the size, because we only got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, this is 48 inches by 30 inches.
Great size.
Horizontal.
This, to me, is collectible by anybody. From a child who's seen the movie to an adult. All right, folks, we've been pleased to have, as you see, just a magnificent young artist, Aaron Reichert, and he's come to town. I want to go ahead and tell folks we have his website up, www.aaronreichert.com. But as you know, we have our art scene that we go on once a month, the first Saturday of the month. And why don't you tell us where you're going to be with the gallery?
Sure. I believe
so folks can see more and also get a chance to meet and greet with you.
Yeah, I believe the 5th of February will be our opening there.
It's always a Saturday, first Saturday of the month.
Yeah, it's at Steve Martin Fine Art, which is on Julia Street. It's 619 Julia Street, right by Julia and St. Charles there. Steve Martin's a super nice guy. He's there all the time.
An artist among his own right.
Yeah, he's a wonderful artist, and he's been very good to me. And the work is always on display there. Any day you want to go in.
He's a permanent exhibit there, but at the same time, he's not always there. So it's a great night for all those who get out on that Saturday to go get a little libations and talk to the artist and see the work. Sorry to cut you short. It was a real pleasure. Folks, go to the galleries, go to his website, check out the art scene, and we'll see you at the end of let's see, March. I think it's March. We're in February. Huh? We're in January, right?
Yeah, we're in January.
I've lost a whole lot of time, so you don't want to hear about that.
Good.
But we'll see you at the last Wednesday in February on Artist Review. Until that time, enjoy art. I think it's important. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Do you think we